Welcome to Wind Down Wednesday. Here are your hosts, Jeffrey Tobias Halter and Amanda Hammett.
Well, good afternoon. Today we're talking with Gabrielle Claiborne. It's Pride Month. We want to explore deeper the previous conversation we had with her. And this time we want to talk about her book, talk about more gender equity to include all women, and a term that she uses that I'm actually going to have her expand on later in the call. And that's this notion of gender expansive. And what do we mean by that? So it's my pleasure to welcome my co-host, Amanda. First of all, I want to start by saying I'm enjoying, my beverage of choice, typically a nice dry French rosé on a hot June day in Atlanta. What about you?
Well, you usually refer to it as the iced tea of wines.
The iced tea of wines, of course.
So today I am back with my vodka, club soda, and lime, my traditional summer sugar-free drink, I guess. It makes me feel like I'm healthy while still drinking. So it is my absolute honor to welcome back Gabrielle Claiborne back to Wind Down Wednesday. If you have not seen her previous episode, please go back and check it out. It was phenomenal information for everyone. But we spoke with her recently about Pride Month and about building inclusive organizations. And today we're going to continue that conversation. So Gabrielle is the co-founder and CEO of Transformation Journeys Worldwide, which is an inclusive training and consulting firm with a transgender and gender expansive focus. Her award-winning and certified LGBT business enterprise consultancy helps cutting-edge organizations position themselves to attract and retain the best talent and foster collaborative working environments, which maximizes innovation and directly impacts the bottom line by creating fully trans-inclusive cultures. Now, Gabrielle currently serves as the co-chair of the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce's TGX initiative, as the co-chair of the Trans Affairs Committee of the City of Atlanta's LGBTQ Mayoral Advisory Council, as secretary of the Out Georgia Business Alliance, and as chair of their TGX 360 Workplace and Entrepreneurship Initiative. Man, I don't know how you have time to sleep with all this that you have going on. In addition to all of this, in 2020, she published her memoir, which was Memoir Meets Self-Help Book, Embrace Your Truth, A Journey of Authenticity. Gabrielle is a sought-after speaker, activist, and thought leader whose work has been featured in Forbes and the Atlanta Business Chronicle.
Gabrielle, welcome back to Wind Down Wednesday. What's your beverage of choice?
Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely.
My beverage of choice is typically a Malbec. All right. I love the red wine. Today, because I am heading to the beach in a few days, I'm staying clean and I'm drinking my water.
I love it. Okay. So, Gabrielle, for listeners who missed the earlier episode that we briefly touched on, would you share a very short background and description of the work you're doing through Transformation Journeys?
Yes. So we are an inclusion training firm with a transgender focus. So we help a myriad of organizations, whether it's a corporate client, whether it's a medical or mental health care client, whether it's a spiritual community, a municipality, an educational institution, we help them establish cultures of belonging for trans and gender expansive individuals. And we do this through both personal cultural competency training and also organizational and targeted cultural competency training. And we've been in business for 7 years. And over the last 7 years, we have developed a very robust curriculum of the different services that we offer. And we're very grateful that organizations continue coming back to us to continue the conversation.
Well, that's great. So our last episode, we focused on some of your corporate work. We want to be a little more personal in this interview now. And I'd love for you to share with our readers some insights from your book, Embrace Your Truth, A Journey of Authenticity. As you describe it, a memoir meets self-help book. Tell us more.
Here's my book, Embrace Your Truth, A Journey of Authenticity. You can find it on Amazon. And I was very intentional in writing this book because, not only did I feel like it was very important for, especially in the times that we're living in, for successful trans stories to be shared, because I feel like a lot of our community, for those who are just starting out on their journey, they need good role models to emulate and to look at and say, if this person can do this, then I can do this as well. So I wanted to be very intentional in making sure that there was a positive story out there that the community and an ally or an advocate could really tap into. But I also wrote it because when we're on a journey of authenticity, authenticity looks different on us, right? I mean, it just so happens to that an aspect of my authenticity is that I'm a transgender woman. So in this book, I share the lessons learned, the insights, the spiritual insights, however you want to, whatever phrase you want to use, that we all have, that are universal, by the way, that we all have to navigate and come to terms with when we're looking to embrace any aspect of authenticity that is waiting to come forth in our life. And so when I talk about these lessons learned that I had to navigate, it's things like building a support system around you, because, when we're on a journey of authenticity, that journey is not meant to be traveled alone. We have to have a good support system around us to help us continue moving forward, because there's going to be days. And I can tell you this from a firsthand perspective. There's going to be days when you're not going to want to get out of the bed. And so you're going to have that support system around you to continue encouraging you and being your cheerleader. You're also going to have to learn to do things like listen to your heart. I didn't even know that my heart spoke with 5 languages. And so as a result of writing this book and doing the research and living my life, did I understand that my heart had been calling me all along to embrace this aspect of my truth. I had to learn to love myself all over again. I mean, especially when we embrace certain aspects of authenticity that really don't rest well with even our family or those around us, our workplace, right? When we get a lot of pushback, we have to be able to love ourselves enough to continue leaning into what our heart is trying to tell us and leaning into that still small voice. And learning to love myself was a huge learning experience and one of the most valuable things that I came to terms with. Learning to navigate through pushback. Like I said, there's going to be folks who are going to say, this is impacting me and I'm really not liking what this is doing to me, right? So how do you prepare for that? How do you do that in a way that is in integrity with yourself and also honoring the other party that may be having their own journey with your authenticity? And then I finish up by talking about, what you can do, how you can live a purposeful life. And what I learned in my own journey is that there's a direct correlation between authenticity and purposefulness. You cannot separate the two. When you're living authentically, you don't have to find your purpose because your purpose will find you. As you continue to show up authentically, you will step into new spaces. Doors will open up for you to do new things, great things. And so that's kind of what the book is about. It's more of an invitation to the reader saying, okay, this is what I had to do to get honest with myself. What do you have to do to get honest with what your heart is inviting you to consider?
So, Gabrielle, following that thread for just a second, what conversations has your book sparked?
Well, one of the conversations that it sparked is, what does authentic leadership look like in the workplace? And I've actually started doing a lot of speaking around authentic leadership because, when it comes to showing up in the workplace authentically, there's a lot of barriers that oftentimes we have to navigate over, around, and through, right? And what I've learned is that, and I think a lot of organizations are learning this as well, if you want to maximize your employees' production and productivity, you have to allow them to bring their whole self to work, right? I mean, we have heard story after story in the training work that we've done that when, a person finally lets go of people's perception and expectations on how they show up and they finally show up authentically, their performance reviews actually improve. So when we're talking about authentic leadership, when we're talking about showing up in the workplace authentically, it means means, doing those things that we have to do to honor ourselves, be visible, and at the same time, perhaps provide an educational opportunity and educational conversation for those around us who may not really understand what we're having to navigate, right? So it's opened this door up around authenticity in the workplace and what it means to be an authentic leader.
So I think this is a great segue point to kind of bridge, our previous conversation around the work you do and your book, and also, as we always talk about, allyship. So, Gabrielle, as an ally, how do I even start to have a conversation? Because we've had other guests on, and it's not your job as a transgender woman to teach the world. Now, you take that role on, but most transgender women wouldn't necessarily want to go there.
Right.
So talk to us about what allies can do. What would you like us to do to start this conversation?
Great question. The question we get all the time. I think the first thing that I would say is you can educate yourself. You don't have to wait on me. You don't have to wait on another trans person, right? I mean, my goodness, we have Google. And if you Google, trans advocacy or trans ally, I will tell you, you will have more information pop up on your screen than you will know what to do with. So, and to your point, Jeff, it's not realistic to expect for someone else to educate you. I mean, when we're talking about other inclusion and diversity inclusion initiatives, one of the things is that you got to do your own work, right? It's no different in this conversation. So do your own work, educate yourself. We got a great resource on our website, and I think that's going to be shared at the end of our time together today. So we really, get plugged into that. That's a great place to start. I think another thing that you can do to be a good ally and advocate is understand the importance of pronouns. And I mean, my goodness, I feel like every time we have a conversation, pronouns comes up. And as a trans person, I'm like, okay, let's get beyond pronouns. But guess what? We're not beyond pronouns yet, because people really don't understand why pronouns are so important to trans and gender expansive folks, right? So something you can do to advocate for a trans person is add your pronouns to your LinkedIn profile, add your pronouns to your Instagram profile, add your pronouns to your Zoom name, right? You can see my pronouns and my name here. If you have a website showing, bios of your leadership team, add pronouns to your leadership team's page. This is a great way to communicate to the trans community that you understand the importance of pronouns and that you're not expecting them to educate you on the importance of pronouns, right? I think another thing that is important to understand is that, to your earlier point, Jeff, when, not all trans people want to embrace and carry that mantle of advocacy. They just want to show up. They just want to be, right? And so consequently, you may not even know you're in the presence of a trans person. Mm-hmm. And so if a trans person decides to confide in you about their identity, that is for them to share and for you to hold in confidence. That is not something that you share outside of that conversation. So understanding the importance of not outing someone is important. And it's actually a matter of safety for many of us.
Yes.
So those are three things right off the top of my head that I feel like folks could do right now.
Thank you so much for pointing out that safety piece. I think that that's something that unfortunately we don't think about until it's too late, until it's the news story. So thank you specifically for sharing that piece. Could you tell us a little bit more, to switch gears a little bit? Could we talk a little bit about the TGX 360 Employment and Entrepreneurship Initiative? And specifically, I want to know for our listeners, is this a Georgia initiative, or are there similar programs happening across the U.S. or even globally?
So I'll answer the last question first. Yes, it is. Yes, it is a Georgia initiative. And yes, there are other programs that are already doing this work across the country, in Philly, in Seattle, in LA. There's a number of different organizations, nonprofit organizations that are actually propping themselves up to advocate for equitable employment and entrepreneurship for trans and gender expansive individuals. And just so everyone understands what gender expansive term means, okay? Over time, our language continues to evolve. Just 5 years ago, non-binary folks started becoming more visible because they started developing the language around their lived experience that they would actually use to articulate how they show up, right? So non-binary individuals are those individuals that don't identify as neither male or female or a combination of both. And this non-binary gender identity is really kind of an umbrella, if you will. There's a number of different non-binary identities that fall under this umbrella. And as our language continues to evolve, we're trying to find an acronym that actually works for everyone. So while trans is its own umbrella typically, and sometimes non-binary folks sometimes fit under the trans umbrella, but not all the time, the TGX, trans and gender expansive, is becoming kind of an umbrella that encompasses all the different non-binary identities that fall under it. So that's what that TGX represents. So yes, it is a statewide initiative, and it's actually an initiative that is supported by the Out Georgia Business Alliance, which is Georgia's only LGBTQ chamber of commerce. And this initiative is to advocate for equitable employment for TGX job seekers, as well as equitable entrepreneurship through mentorship opportunities for TGX entrepreneurs. When you look at the data and the statistics of employment and entrepreneurship for the trans and gender expansive community, the data is woefully falling short of any other measurements or metrics that are out there when we're tracking impact of employment, equitable employment. So one of the reasons that we've developed this initiative is to meet those who are most marginalized in our community, that is our Black and brown, trans and gender expansive siblings, brothers and sisters who don't even have access a lot of times to these employers who could otherwise set them right side up and get them moving forward in their life from an equitable perspective. So this initiative is built strategically to meet those folks where they are and bring them along through job readiness programs, through job fairs where we're going to position them in front of vetted employees or employers that will actually know how to navigate the conversations with a gender diverse individual showing up in their workplace so that we can set them up for success. That's what the initiative is about. We have an advisory group that we have developed that represents a cross-section of our community because we want to make sure that all of the voices in our community of all the different intersections of our lived experiences is informing our work as we move forward.
Wow. What a segment. You know what? We never seem to have enough time. But I want to personally thank you, Gabrielle, for coming on. Thank you as a friend and a colleague, and for the amazing, amazing work you're doing. That is really driving differences. For our listeners, just a reminder, it's Pride Month. You can do one thing as an ally, and that is show up. Just go to a Pride event and take it in and start to go from there. If you want to know more, Gabrielle gave you some free, amazing tools that she has on her website, journeysworldwide.com. You can find out more about her and her book. We're going to have you on again in the future. And so it's just been our pleasure and our joy to chat with you today. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you both for having me.
Thanks again for joining us for Wind Down Wednesdays, a contemporary midweek discussion on current workplace and marketplace issues with a focus on diversity, inclusion, intersectionality, and equality. I'm Amanda Hammett, and on behalf of myself and Jeffrey Tobias Halter, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for joining us for Wind Down Wednesday. If you like this episode, please subscribe to receive more episodes straight to your inbox.